Hello, listeners. It's Mallory Wilsey, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to tell you about another show on our podcast network that I think you'll love. Visionary Voices, the College President's Playbook, is an insightful podcast dedicated to the strategic minds leading today's higher ed institutions. Each episode brings a unique perspective from visionary and tech-forward college presidents, chancellors, and other high-level academic leaders, diving into the complexities and nuances of running a modern educational institution. This show is hosted by Dr. Brian Gross, Vice President for Enrollment Management and Athletics at Hartwick College, and is a valuable resource for current and aspiring leaders in academia, offering a playbook of visionary ideas and practical solutions for the ever-evolving landscape of higher ed. New episodes drop every other Wednesday, and you can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Visionary Voices wherever you get your podcasts.
Previously, we would ask them to connect with the admissions team, and we may take them to like a main admissions@semo.edu email account or a page where they have to figure out who their admissions counselor is. Now we drop them to our chatbot to drop their questions into there. The great thing about it is if at any point they want to speak to a human team member, they can ask for that handoff, and our chatbot does that handoff very well.
Welcome to Mission Admissions, a podcast that helps higher ed become better recruiters, communicators, marketers, and leaders. I'm your host, Jeremy Tiers, and every other week I'll share my candid conversations with industry leaders and difference makers from both inside and outside of higher ed. You'll walk away with advice, tips, and strategies to help you both professionally and personally. Mission Admissions is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. You can learn more at element451.com. Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Tiers, and this is episode 45 of the Mission Admissions podcast. AI continues to be a hot topic in the world of college admissions and marketing. Back in January, I had Bart Kaler on the pod to discuss the importance of experimenting with AI and how to get started. And today I'm excited to sit down with Lenell Hahn from Southeast Missouri State to have a conversation about how her admissions team is utilizing AI to help with different enrollment and admissions tasks. So welcome to the show, Lenell.
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
I would love to just kind of start at the beginning with you, Lenell, and figure out, some people obviously super excited when things like AI get introduced. Some people way more skeptical. So where did your interest kind of come from? Or do you remember that first starting point where you were like, okay, I'm going to do some digging into this whole AI thing? How did that process start for you?
Well, I'm going to go way back when I started my career in higher education in 2003. I was an admissions web counselor. It was a brand new position. And I've always been kind of this functional tech user and really valued the online experience of a student. And so when the generative AI came out, of course, took advantage of all of the podcasts that are out there so I can learn on my own. I've always valued ed tech partners and what they can offer to your experience in supporting students at your institution, and really just having a great ed tech partner that rolled out these tools that we just instantly wanted to adopt. I felt like we did not have any hesitation when we could go to a generative AI chatbot. We felt like it was going to significantly improve the experience for our families.
I have to believe then that a motivating factor to your point was this will help my staff be more efficient with their time, correct?
Oh, definitely. Yes. There's always those frequently asked questions where you're continuing to answer the same email or phone call or text message where, you can have this really fantastic knowledge base that can answer those things consistently, accurately, in a very conversational way from a generative AI standpoint. And then that gives our team more time face-to-face with families, whether it's a video call or an in-person campus visit or a one-on-one outreach.
So being open to AI without question, I would argue, right, is step one, understanding that it's a tool and needing to educate yourself. So you mentioned podcasts, obviously having some external partners that are utilizing it without question, I'm sure is helpful as well. What else? Anything else that you would recommend if somebody's listening to this and going, okay, then Lenell, where do I start if I'm open to it besides podcasts?
I think some people are their AI is huge, right? And so trying to determine what type of generative AI tool could support the work that you do, and then really kind of honing in on what opportunities are in the marketplace, attending professional development conferences, taking advantage of those exhibit halls, going up to each table and just starting that conversation, because you learn so many cool tools that are out there that you don't even know existed.
So then besides admissions, when you, again, start that conversation with an external partner, who do you feel like, in terms of other SEMO campus partners, needs to be involved in that conversation? Or if somebody, again, is sitting here going, all right, I want to get to the point that you're at now, Lenell, who else on my campus do I need to be involved in these conversations? Either A, because it'll just speed everything up, or B, maybe to avoid some of these stumbling blocks that others might face.
There's always going to be a contract that's going to need to be evaluated. So sometimes you may need legal counsel to take a look at that contract you're going to sign, working with your purchasing department as far as ensuring that there isn't anything in there that could create a roadblock on coming to an agreement and a contract. And then that IT team, marketing team, your enrollment management team is key.
Earlier, you mentioned the importance of saying, all right, we need to figure out what makes sense based on kind of where our needs are as a campus and how our processes are either set up or not set up. So give us an idea of how you ultimately evaluated, okay, we need to look at A, B, and C then if we're going to partner and do more of this AI generated work. How do you figure out where AI makes the most sense to involve in terms of like the day-to-day work? How did that whole process happen for you all?
You definitely need to start with your students or your potential students. So what are the types of questions that they're asking that you would want your generative AI chatbot to be able to answer? So we frequently get questions on, what is my application status? So if you're using generative AI that's not connected to your CRM platform, that wouldn't have the capability to look at a student's application, our chatbot can tell them what missing checklist items they have to complete their application. It can help them start an application for admission. It can congratulate them that they've been admitted to the university. But if you have a disconnect between your CRM and your chatbot, if your systems aren't communicating and connecting with each other, then that would definitely be something that I would have as a part of my consideration set.
Help us understand just kind of when it comes to implementation and actually getting buy-in from your staff.
Yeah. So the platform we used already had a module called Conversations. And in that Conversations module, our admissions counselors could individually email and text message students, as well as if they're on like our application portal or a visit registration page, they could do like a web chat. And since 2020, they were having to respond individually, our human team members, to every single email, SMS, and web chat ourselves. And it was a heavy lift. And whenever our partner rolled out the capability for a chatbot to be able to have this knowledge base and take care of answering all of those questions, and in a way that was conversational, it felt personal, and it could still help someone sign up for visiting campus or check on their application, it was really a no-brainer for us. Now, of course, we did need people to check the security of the knowledge base, that there wasn't going to be information that's going to pull in from sources outside of our knowledge bases. And there was lots of testing that had to take place to make sure of accuracy of responses. And we still monitor that accuracy of responses of our chatbot. But because of that, it was a very easy sell for our team. And then just to see the power of the amount of minutes that we're saving our team from that repetitive work to them being able to spend more valuable time with families, getting very personal versus the repetitive pieces.
So the EdTech partner you keep referring to, in case anybody was wondering, right, is Element 451.
Yes, that's correct.
Some of the things they've been able to help you with, for example, you mentioned the AI chatbot. You mentioned a little earlier, it can answer those frequently answered questions. Where else, for example, is a chatbot, when it's set up correctly, going to save you and your staff time?
When we send out email marketing messages, right now, previously, we would ask them to connect with the admissions team, and we may take them to like a main admissions@semo.edu email account or a page where they have to figure out who their admissions counselor is. Now we drop them to our chatbot to drop their questions into there. The great thing about it is if at any point they want to speak to a human team member, they can ask for that handoff, and our chatbot does that handoff very well. And the big key to it, too, is making sure you're very transparent that this is a bot that you are speaking to. And we're really transitioning from considering it a bot to an AI assistant. And so we're still currently using a chat bot that has one knowledge base that it pulls from, but we'll be transitioning to AI assistants where there's specialized knowledge bases for specialized skill sets. The big piece of it is when you're gaining a college degree and choosing college as your educational path, we're like small cities in ourselves, right? So how much an admissions counselor needs to know is so gigantic. They need to know about the academic programs, co-curricular, living on campus, dining, the admissions, the financial aid, the billing process, the support, the academic advising. I mean, it is huge, the amount of knowledge. And for us, we can't retain the amount of knowledge that an AI chatbot can go to and return a response in a matter of seconds. And so we're finding that the generation that we're working with, we're meeting their expectations better because I think a lot of times they feel an AI chatbot is more reliable and consistent in the information they're going to receive than an individual who may have only been in their job for a month. Because as we know, turnover within positions is really high, especially within the admissions counselor role.
But it just gets me to wonder, as technology grows, whether it's AI or any other type of whatever comes after it, do you feel like there's going to get to be a point where, like, I don't know if you've had this conversation, you have a 16-year-old daughter, as we were talking about before we jumped on. Has your daughter ever, for example, brought up AI, or have you guys ever had just random conversations? Like, I just wonder, like, the skepticism, right? Is it there and people just aren't talking about it? Have we not reached that point yet? But any thoughts on any of that?
So I talked about, podcasts being a big piece of my education. And Generation AI is a podcast with Artist Kadu, the founder of Element 451, and JC Vanilla. And one of their recent podcasts was talking about how AI is just going to become embedded in all the tools we use. So people are going to be using it sometimes when they don't even realize they're using it. And so, as we know, it was announced, I think yesterday, Apple and their intelligent AI. You've got Microsoft with their Copilot. You've got Google with their Gemini. And I mean, my daughter uses Snapchat really heavily, and she has an AI within her Snapchat that she actually does use. So we do talk about AI. Of course, you've got Meta AI that's replacing your search if you're using Facebook or some of those other social media platforms. And so I think as it just becomes a part of our daily lives, as it's integrated in everything that we're using, I would think that that's going to increase how comfortable they are with what they're receiving back from an AI tool.
Do you have any thoughts as to why the adoption rate, especially just in higher ed, right? Because that's obviously the world that you and I live in. Why is the adoption rate still so low? Do you have any thoughts as to why that might be?
I think there is a lot of fear of accurate information being provided, but we're not using generative AI on just like open sources, right? So we have knowledge bases that we're curating and creating. So that gives us a sense of security that the responses given back are just going to be coming from our website or text that we provide or custom answers. And then new sources that are going to be a part of our knowledge bases is our YouTube channel or YouTube videos, because we know people like to watch videos. And so it'll be great to see that being provided back in our responses from our chatbots.
And if somebody listening just said, Lenell, I have no idea what you just tried to explain to me, meaning open sources, that just because they're not familiar, right, with some of the language, can you quickly break down, for example, something like ChatGPT versus, yeah, but no, it's just pulling from our website or our YouTube channel and things of that nature, like you just referenced?
Yeah, it's not gathering information from the World Wide Web where you don't know what site it may hit and grab information from and respond back with. It's only going to be canvassing resources that you have added to your knowledge base. That's where, your own dedicated knowledge base that you're managing versus, to me, the World Wide Web and anything that's out there that it could grab from.
In addition to utilizing an AI chatbot, right, not just on your website, but also to help with email and texting prospective students, you're using it in other ways. What are some of the other ways within admissions that AI is helping, again, you and your staff just either be more productive, serve more students, serve them faster? I mean, can you give us a few other examples of things that you've done that have been successful so far?
There is, our platform even calls it Copilot tools. So if they're creating an email or an SMS message, they can put prompts in there to have it, and they can add custom instructions for our brand language. And so they can ask it to change it to a different tone, or you can translate it into a different language if you're working with a student from outside of the United States, or maybe a parent that doesn't speak English. So there's some translation tools in there. In addition, we can use it for natural language queries on our data within our system. And so someone may use it to ask our tool, let me know what my top 10 high schools are of applicants within my territory. And so it can data mine information for you really quickly. So that's helpful. And then, of course, our marketing team definitely helps it as well. And whether it's using it for kind of a jumping off point for landing page creation, emails, SMS, really that content piece. So initial content creation, but then using prompts to refine it and get it exactly how we want it before we send it out to our families.
If I'm listening to this and I'm an admissions director or I'm a senior leader, all this sounds, I would argue, great. And why wouldn't I want to spend some more time learning about AI and how it can help me and help my team? Have you, if you're comfortable sharing, Lenell, then really been met with any speed bumps along the way since you started utilizing AI? Where are the negatives or pitfalls or things that, again, if I'm going to start, hey, be on the lookout for these kind of things, but now that obviously you've been through it and you know what they don't know, if that makes sense?
I would say just because you have the tools and you've trained your team on using the tools, there's no guarantee that they're going to use them in their daily work. So making sure it's more than just a one and done, right? So in your weekly team meetings, ask how they're using the tools, ask for feedback, find out what is helping them, what isn't. With the partner that we have, they want to know what's working and isn't working. And so making sure you're talking to your team so you can gain that perspective to then share back. So you're working together to really strengthen experience on both sides, experience for the families you're supporting, as well as experiences for your teams that are using these tools.
So you said something there that I think I'd love to pivot to, which is this idea of, again, meeting either individually with team members that you manage or meeting together as a group. I just had a LinkedIn poll I think it ended yesterday, where I asked people how often they do one-on-one meetings with whoever, right, ultimately manages them. And the large majority of the 125 or so people who answered, Lenell, said, yeah, that's happening on a weekly or biweekly basis. Anything that, as you, because you've been in a leadership role for a while now, and knowing you at least a little bit like I do, I know how passionate you are about leadership. What have you seen in terms of like, hey, these are really effective ways, whether I want to know about how they're utilizing AI or not utilizing AI, or whether they're doing some of these other things I hope they're doing or not? How do those conversations flow pretty smoothly? Like, what have you figured out works best as you're having them with your team?
Yeah. So I do meet weekly with all of my direct reports one-on-one. Very important time together. We meet once a week as well as with the entire team of about 20 team members. And then making sure that it's not just me sharing information with them, but I'm asking them questions continuously about their team members, about their experiences with families. And then I need to do a better job of asking them as they get that human handoff, what are those topics that they're getting handed off to them? Because maybe it's we need to tweak the knowledge base to handle those questions better, or maybe it is just something that it's time for that handoff to happen. But making sure that you are asking your team members to explain how situations transpire. So it is so easy to allow your inbox to make you feel like you don't have time for those individual connections. And so, again, that's where can AI help us with that volume of work to get those face-to-face, whether it's a video call or an in-person, that valuable time spent together and making it a priority.
Yeah, to your point, I would argue as a leader, if you're listening to this, there is no better, at least in my opinion, retention tool that you have than one-on-one meetings, right, with the people you meet with. I do, and I am curious if you're willing to share them now. How are they framed is how I'll ask it. How are those meetings framed to your staff? Meaning, hey, here are the expectations, and each week I'm going to send you a couple of questions I want you to be able to answer, or is it very much we just both come into it and it could go a whole bunch of different ways every single time we meet? What have you found from I'll use the term efficiency standpoint, works best in terms of, all right, I don't want them to feel like now they're unprepared. And if I had told them I was going to ask them this question, so is there anything specifically you do with your one-on-ones that you have found make them more efficient for both you and the person?
We don't set an agenda for our one-on-ones. We know of things that we've talked about the week before that we say we're going to revisit this the next week. Or we may say, okay, let's do some prep work so we can discuss this, maybe a new topic. In addition to the one-on-ones, all of my direct reports, we do what we call a leadership team meeting once a week as well. So my one-on-ones are on Mondays, my leadership team meetings on Thursdays, so it's closer to the end of the week. For that leadership team meeting, we get outside of our office and we go over to the Starbucks on campus in our student university center, which is our student union. So it gives us a change of scenery. It's more comfortable and it helps each other understand what our priorities are, because within our team, we're the welcome center. We do application processing. We have a transfer center. We do freshman recruitment. And then we have a technology coordinator. Those are my direct reports. And we all have competing priorities sometimes. But if we understand each other's priorities and we've got some space in our schedule, we can step in and support someone else when they're overloaded, right? And so we all come from different backgrounds and experiences, and just being more empathetic and understanding of each other. Sometimes we're really quick to judge. And so we've been talking about what are 20 reasons why someone did or didn't do something. Just thinking about that before you're quick to judge and understanding each other and spending that time together really helps. So, and it's not just team meetings and one-on-ones, it's also making sure you're scheduling time for team building. So we do team building periodically throughout the year. We spend 2 days together in the summer in a retreat environment, getting off campus. Those are just all valuable tools to help understand how everyone can support the enrollment goals of the institution.
I love that you do that. And I love that you get off campus, not just during the week, right? But at some of these different other team building events, because I don't, Lenell, see or hear stories from enough senior leaders or your peers telling me that A, they're consistently doing some of what you just said, and B, when they do it, it almost feels like, okay, we have to do it to be able to say that we did it, and we end up rushing through it because, to your point, everybody's so busy for a whole host of reasons. And I think it then becomes harder, to your point, to truly get an understanding of, well, like, why is this person struggling to understand this? Or if you're not having time each week to understand, again, where each other's coming from, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Last thing I would love to ask you about, because it comes up all the time, but especially at this point in the year, right? You and I are recording this, it's early in June. As a leader and as somebody who's been in this field and profession now for a while now, what have you done either lately and or what have you done over the years to help you avoid burnout?
Oh, there's been those times where they've gotten really dark. So when we were at JPAC MOACAC, there was two individuals that did a TED Lasso, the Lasso Way session. I don't know if you attended that. But in that session, they talked about getting in this deep, dark forest, right? And you can't stay in the deep, dark forest forever. And so I think being willing to share with your colleagues on campus things that you're struggling with, and sometimes it helps just to talk about it, just getting it, off of your chest and feeling like there's others that can help empathize. And sometimes you're not sharing because you want them to give you solutions or answers more than just to empathize with you. But then sometimes from that conversation can come up with a really creative idea to re-energize you. But there's been those times where I've gotten really down and thought, can I continue to do this work? But then it's always changing. There's always new opportunities. And here lately, I've been using the word synergy. I think that there's been so much synergy happening on our campus, and we know what our goals are as an institution, and then we're being able to collaborate and come up with really cool ideas of things that we can do to really transform how we're supporting our students at our university.
Leaning on your people, as you said, is so important for all of us, right? We all have people, again, whether it's coworkers, whether it's family, whether it's friends, it doesn't matter who it is. It can be all three. I always tell people, absolutely. I mean, one of the ways I avoid burnout, and I've had those dark days like you, we all have, it's normal, but I lean on people like my wife. I lean on other people, again, none of whom work for the most part in the industry that I'm involved with. And you're right. I think it's important, if nothing else, to remember that sometimes we just listen. You don't have to respond. Just listen. As somebody who's been married almost 25 years, about $1 for every time my wife's like, I just want you to listen, Jeremy. I mean, I know you want to help, but like, just listen, And I have no problem saying that, right? Because that's a common, I would say, thing that a lot of humans, right, struggle with. But at the end of the day, it's so important to talk about it, right? Don't isolate yourself. Because obviously you're going to approach burnout much faster and it's going to be a lot harder to deal with. Lenell, I end every podcast with something I call fun rapid fire. So I'm just going to give you a handful of things and I want some quick feedback from you, okay?
Okay, ready.
If you won the lottery tomorrow, what country are you traveling to first?
I would love to go to Ireland. And my daughter wants to go to Fiji and stay in a bungalow over the water.
Don't we all?
That's two, I guess.
Favorite SEMO sports team to watch? Because I know you watch a lot of them.
Oh, we've been football ticket season holders, like just the experience, the tailgating. I love going to our football games. And we have a new stadium, so that's fantastic.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs. We have one. She's part Airedale, part Aussie Doodle, and she sheds a lot.
Rumor has it you like to water ski. What's the hardest part about learning how to water ski?
Don't lean forward. Don't try to stand up too fast.
And what's the biggest challenge, because I know there's a lot of them, of parenting a teenage girl?
It goes back to don't always try to solve the problem she brings to you. I think sometimes it's just she wants to listen. Make sure when they say they want to spend time and do something to do it. We came home on Sunday night and I had all this housework to do. And she wanted to play board games. And so we played board games.
The years go by fast, as
Yeah.
I tell people all the time,
Yes.
right? And we both only happen to have one. And so it's one thing when you can do it all over again, right? Lenell, thanks so much for being on today.
Thanks, Jeremy. Have a great day.
Mission Admissions is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a number of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admission professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Day Cabilds, and so many other amazing leaders in the higher ed space. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create more meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. You can learn more at element451.com.